And we welcome you to another edition of This Is Wrestling. It is the Versage, the soothsayer, the predictor, the see into the future portion of your host today. And Zach McGibbon's here as well. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Lee. I'm shocked you took the gimmick of Trevor Struthers, considering how much you buried the nickname, but you have taken it on as your own. I guess that's what the Women's United States Championship will do to somebody. But no, I'm looking forward to this review. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the return of WWE's Saturday night's main event this past Saturday, and should be an interesting episode, that's for sure.
It should be. And the reason I have come very early into the show with the Predictriver, because it's the last time I ever want to hear that, Zach. And guess whose title's up for grabs a few days after Christmas? Because his world is going to end. That's right. Trevor Struthers better come to the plate and act like a champion, or at the end of the year, his world will end. He will no longer be This Is Wrestling champion. As we move into 2025, his title's on the line in a couple of weeks, Zach.
Wow. Oh, this is the news that I think a lot of fans were waiting for. When is that title shot going to come up?
December 28th, Orlando, Florida, unless I got the date wrong. Orlando, Florida, where your world will not end, but will Trevor Struthers' world end? There's anything I can do about it? The answer is yes, it will. But he could always Randy Savage me, right?
Yeah.
Like, come in, steal the title after Hogan got robbed after lifting his shoulder at 1.5, and the twin referees counted 3. Earl, Dave, Earl, which one was it? All right, they're both scammers, as we found out later on in their careers. Oh, I'm on fire so far, Zach. And that's why we have a new shot at the championship title coming up in just a couple of weeks. That's how we're going to end 2024. So we don't ever have to stumble over the Predictriver, however you say it. I think I said it right for the first time ever.
I was shocked you got it on the first try, actually.
Yeah.
So.
But as we know, listening to my predictions, which I got everything right, including the United States Women's Champion, I'm on a roll. I just might take that title from him myself. But let's get to Saturday night's main event, Long Island, New York, the Nassau Coliseum, and an 8:00 start, which I very much enjoyed. Let's get to the beginning of it and just introducing Jesse the Body Ventura, hearing Obsession, looking at some of the graphics. It felt, as they tried to do, felt very old school, melding with the new school. What did you think of the opening, little Joe Tessitore, Jesse the Body Ventura, and getting things going like they did back in the mid-'80s?
Yeah, I gotta say, I like the vibes that they went with, the nostalgic vibes, the classic 80s vibes. As you mentioned, bringing back Obsession from Animotion, and they brought back, the red, white, and blue ropes, and they had the referees all dressed up as well with the little bow ties. I saw one referee had his hair all slicked back as well. So I thought in terms of the commitment to that sort of era and the nostalgic feeling, a couple little historical things aside, like I know people were excited about the Winged Eagle belt coming back, and we'll talk about that in the main event in a moment. But I don't really associate Saturday night's main event with that championship. I don't know about you, Lee, but so a couple of historical inaccuracies I have to point out because I'm a stickler for this stuff. But otherwise, I thought in terms of the presentation, it looked different. They did try to go for different while kind of going back to its past. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it from that standpoint in terms of the presentation.
Well, I liked the vibe too, Zach, and thought that it was reminiscent of what we saw, what we were able to have back in the mid 80s. As the show opened, I was pretty happy actually with it. I'm looking forward to getting to, well, as you said, things that I don't think they did a twice over on. I have a few of them. Not very good. However, let us start, Zach, with how they started with Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn opening the program. What did you think of the choice of those guys doing it?
I thought it was an interesting choice. If you wanted to kind of start things off with a good match, I would imagine these would be the two that you would pick to try and set a tone early on, and I think that's what they went out there and went for. I thought this was a high-level TV match. I enjoyed the finishing stretch that they had. I didn't think it was anything, groundbreaking or anything like that. I didn't think this was a next-level pro wrestling match, but I thought this was a higher-level match than what we typically see from WWE, and I thought those two had a good match. And I saw some talk about the commercials and whatnot being affected here, and they didn't have the picture-in-picture, so you're just kind of coming back in cold on stuff as opposed to at least having a semblance of what happened during the picture-in-picture. But for me, I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it started off pretty well. Again, wasn't a mind-blowing match. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is a match of the year or anything like that. But in terms of starting off the show, I enjoyed it for what it was.
I thought it got a major character over quickly. I thought it was a really good match. Do you think they did it intentionally? The old school, not having picture-in-picture? Because that's obviously how it was back in the 80s. He just kind of came back cold. Do you think that was a nod to then? Or do you think that was something they just didn't have in place?
I think it's the latter. I don't think that was a commitment to the old style where they didn't have a picture-in-picture. I just think they didn't have that available to them. And I think a picture-in-picture might have helped for some fans a little bit, just based on what we know with wrestling now. And you could still do like a cool little graphic that kind of shows over, and you still have it. But I thought it was the latter.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I just think of all things that they would have had in place if they wanted to. It would have been that. I just don't know about the feel of. Maybe it's the feel of NBC and the people that air their commercials don't want it picture-in-picture. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Which I think is also very plausible. For the first time on NBC, I don't know that the people airing their commercials want it picture-in-picture. I hate picture-in-picture. I'd rather them go to break and come back cold. I don't watch the matches in picture-in-picture anyway. So I'm not a big fan of it. I don't mind when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like I'm watching picture-in-picture and see something that's really cool. They're taking a break during the minute 45 anyway.
Yep.
So that's really not a big deal to me. I thought it was really good to put Drew McIntyre's character over first. Like, okay, Saturday night's main event, Drew McIntyre is going to come out, beat a top-level competitor clean. I think that was a really good sign for him and where they want to go with him. We then get into Liv Morgan and Io Sky. I can't believe that I didn't text you the picture that I took while I was watching this, but I'll text it to you now, Zach.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll do this live. Okay. So folks, he doesn't know what I'm texting him. And I'm just going to text you a picture. And then when you get this message, I want you to open it up. I want you to read it. And I want you to tell me what you think of it.
All right.
Okay.
So I just got the picture.
Okay.
I have opened it now. I will read to you what is on this picture.
Okay.
Liv Morgan, 203 days as Women's World Champion. Third longest reign in history. Fifth title defense as champion. Inaugural Women's Crown Jewel Champion. And that is a little graphic in the bottom left corner of the screen.
Okay, so I actually liked a lot of what they did, and I'm going to say this before I rip them apart. I liked a lot of what they did, telling people who don't know who these people are and a little bit of their background story. I thought they did a really good job with this over the course of the night, because they didn't embarrass themselves to the hardcore wrestling fan. I didn't think it was over the top as a hardcore wrestling fan that knows everything that they're putting up. Well, actually, I didn't know this information. So it didn't embarrass me as like a diehard wrestling fan. But for a newbie coming on the scene, I think it was valuable information. And I think they do this all the time, right? It's like introducing the starting lineups at NFL games. Do I know that Cooper Rush is the backup quarterback? And is he going to introduce himself from whatever godforsaken school he came from? Or when people get cute and do their high school or their elementary school? Like, this happens in sports all the time. Introducing the people before you sit down and watch, right?
Yep.
So I thought they did a really good job. Except for this one. Zach, 203 days as women's world champions, the third longest reign in history.
Correct.
Right underneath that, what does it say?
5th title defenses champion.
Are you bleeping kidding me with that? Are you kidding me? Like, if I'm Liv Morgan, I'm watching that back going, that is the most embarrassing thing I have ever seen. 203 days as women's world champion, which is the third longest reign in history of the company. It's your 5th title defense.
That's
what?
Good. That's funny.
Oh my God. I'm watching it going, you can't put that up. There were people in the 80s that had 5 title defenses in 7 days. But now you're telling me she's the third longest reigning champion in history, and she's defended the title 4 times? 4 in 203 days, Zach.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's a title defense every 50 days.
I wanted to get to 55 just so you could yell about it. Once every 2 months. Liv Morgan is wrestling who? Who?
Probably Rhea Ripley for the 3rd time.
Yeah, and losing.
And losing.
On DQ or count out or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Zach. I don't know. Like, this is something, and I know I shouldn't be losing my mind over, but you just can't put this up as a wrestling company.
No.
Because you're embarrassing yourself. When you're lauding the fact that this woman is the third longest reigning champion in history, and it's, oh my God, we count days. Roman Reigns counted 203 days. She's defended the title 4 goddamn times. Oh my God. I was just really embarrassed, Zach. Really, really embarrassed.
Oh, that is, I was initially looking at it as like, man, it's been this long that Liv Morgan has held a belt.
Yeah, I know. That's your initial reaction for sure.
Oh, but and then the 5th title defense is just as you were explaining it. I was like, oh God. Looking it over again, I was like, man, she's only had 5 of them. 5 of them.
This is her 5th defense.
The 5th one.
So she's only had 4.
She's going into her 5th one.
That's right.
Oh, that is awesome. I mean, that is just fantastic. I mean, what else can you say? I mean,
these are the type, though, of errors when you're presenting a Saturday night's main event, you cannot do. This is just unforgivable to me, because you're literally embarrassing your own champion as much as you possibly can.
Did you hear on the broadcast? I might have misheard it, but I want to confirm if you heard it as well. Did they say that Liv Morgan was a contender for the Wrestler of the Year in WWE because of the years that she had?
Yep.
God help me. Liv Morgan, Wrestler of the Year?
Yeah. So not only is Liv Morgan a very average wrestler to begin with, now she's wrestling. And you know what, Zach? I'm going to give you a little homework because I feel like when you're going to put this graphic up and you're going to put it up on social media and you're going to put me yelling about this up on your clips and your 1.5 minute little segments that you have.
Yeah.
Make sure that when you put this up and me yelling about it and the graphic beside it, please let us know what the other 4 title defenses are and how she did.
Okay. I will look up cage match and make sure to get that information for you. I'm sure it's like 3 of those. I'm fairly confident Rhea Ripley occupies like 3 of them.
Right. And has she ever pinned Rhea Ripley?
Not that I can recall.
Not
Clean anyway.
No, but she definitely lost to her by DQ when Raquel Rodriguez came out.
Oh, there was that. I try to forget that match. So yeah. That's all that. I'm not going to get back into it.
No, the whole, I want you to put this up and just go, when you're telling us, and this is why we are here, because fans are stupid.
Wow.
And when you tell people stuff like this, and I'm not trying to be super mean, but I texted it to you and you didn't even see it the first time. Like when you just tell people things, 3rd longest reign in history, 203 days, heaven forbid we question what might go into those numbers, but don't worry, WWE, you did it for us. We didn't have to look it up because you told us 4 times she has defended the title, and I'm pretty sure I would be willing to bet there is not more than 1 clean pinfall victory in those 4. Because I think 2 or 3 of them are against Rhea Ripley. She's never beat her.
Yeah, I'm on cage match, and funny enough, they actually undersold her. They didn't count Dark Show title defenses that she had.
Those aren't title defenses.
No? Those don't count?
No.
Well, I mean, you could inflate it a little bit, you know? If you're going to put that graphic up, at least count them,
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man.
Anyway, it's just, I literally was like, let's try and demean our champion even more. How can we do that? She's not a very good wrestler. She just hangs out with Dom, and that's how we put her over.
Yeah. She does have a title defense against Zelina Vega on Raw that she won. Seeing here.
Right. And I'm wondering how Zelina Vega, no offense, got that title shot.
That was 11 minutes and 30 seconds, too.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
That's 2 commercial breaks, you think?
Yeah. That's anyway, about 9 minutes, 30 seconds too long. But
now she does defeat Io Sky clean.
Yes.
I'm actually pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
She got kicked in the face during the match. She leaned into it, wiping the blood. And when she caught Io Sky, to me, when Io Sky did the moonsault and she caught her with her feet, it wasn't just a bad knees up. It was like feet to the face. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. Now, once again, I wish most people in the world could actually hit their own finisher and actually make it look good. I feel like if it's your finisher, can you please make it look good? Once again, she didn't make it look great, but okay, Io Sky gave her some help. He beat Io Sky clean, which I think is a good win for her. I was just so bothered by the 5th title defense that nothing was going to make me happy at that point.
I will say, for all that we kind of gave about Liv Morgan there, I actually thought this was one of her better matches of the title reign.
Yeah.
Take that for what you will, because I'm not, again, this was not Akira Hokuto out there or anybody like that. But the funny thing is, Lee, they just let them go out there and have a match.
Yeah.
Like no gimmicks, no run-ins. They just went out there and had a match. And wow, look at that, Lee. They actually, tried to work, and Io Sky's a good wrestler. And if there's anybody that could try and bring more out of Liv Morgan, it would be Io Sky. And I thought they had, a better match than I thought they were going to have.
Yep.
It wasn't going to light your socks off. This was not the second coming of Manami Toyota out there, but it was still solid enough. And I thought this was one of the better Liv Morgan performances. And she didn't need run-ins. She didn't need gimmicks. She didn't need Dom in a shark cage up above the ring. She didn't need none of that. She just had a match. She won clean. And wow, how about that? She won clean, and it seems like, she's got this legitimate title reign going. And then they tease the stuff with Rhea Ripley at the end. You know what? Thumbs up for me. I'm not going to complain about that. Was it a little silly that they played the music and, Rhea Ripley still has to do her entrance and her pose as she's confronting Liv Morgan? Yes. But you know what? Those are things that I have lost that battle on. And so I will just accept it for what it is. And I will say I liked it. I will accept it for what it was.
Well, that's awfully big of you, Zach.
I know. It's all about growth. We are all about growth here on the podcast.
I think you're growing.
Yeah. I think we are.
I do not accept what you just said as far as the entrance and come on. What are you doing with Rhea Ripley? What are you doing? If she wants to come out, fine.
Yeah.
I don't need her to come out and do an entrance.
Well, she's got to do her entrance. She's got to pose, Lee. That's what we learned. You got to get your poses in.
Gunther, Damian Priest, Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. Finn Balor takes the pin, and Gunther is still your champion. What'd you think of the match?
It's a good little match. Good little three-way match. It's kind of my review of a lot of these matches, except for the next match. They were, average to good. I thought, and this was another one of those cases. I've always been a big Gunther guy. I think he's somebody that's adapted to the WWE style while still kind of maintaining that aura that he had, from the independents and going into NXT. So they haven't been booking him great the last little while, but Gunther is still Gunther. And we know that Gunther and Damian Priest, while they've had, I think, 17,000 matches since this feud started, they still have some good chemistry. And Finn Balor, I'm not as high on Finn Balor as others are.
You say this every show.
I know.
We know. Okay, so we know now how you feel about him. Okay? We listen to you, Zach. Unfortunately, we know how you feel about him.
I'm not as high on him. He never bad. I just don't think he's that great that people make him out to be. And I thought he was all right here. I thought he did his part. Again, was there anything that made me stand out, was there anything that stood out in this match? Not really. But I thought they went out there and worked hard, and again, same thing. No run-ins, no gimmicks, nothing. Gunther won. He choked out Damian Priest. He pinned Finn Balor. So I'm good. I'm happy with that. I got no issues. No silly gimmicks, no silly run-ins. I'm fine with someone winning clean. So I enjoyed it for what it was.
So this is pretty much the one I wanted to highlight, to go, okay, we're not going to do anything crazy in this match because Gunther's going to win, which, by the way, I predicted, even though I said it would be a good idea to put the belt on Damian Priest, I predicted that Gunther would win. I actually think they did a marvelous job with all of the other stuff. I thought the match was okay. For a three-way, I've seen so many of them. It's like, I don't need to see another one. But I thought it was okay. And I thought what they did, they caught them all walking into the building, showing them like athletes do coming into the building. I thought when they came down to the ring, I thought it looked great. I think one of those camera angles that was kind of just above the crowd that kind of shows them coming through the crowd. JD McDonough came out with them, looked like he was supposed to be there. Then he went to the back. It felt really good. I thought they did an excellent job with their production at making everyone seem important, making the entrances look cool. Balor had the mask on, but I just thought the aura around this match, or specifically the production of this match, I thought it was really good, which makes everything around it better, right? Like the match can be okay, and if you do everything else right, it's going to come off really well. So I like you. I think when the decision's made that Gunther's going to win, this is then as good as you could have done. So I applaud them. Yep. I thought there's nothing to pick at in this match, and in fact, I thought it was really good.
You did kind of pull a Zach McGibbon. You did pull a me by doing, well, I think he's going to win, but I could also see this happening. And that way, if either happens, then you can claim victory.
So you're saying that like it's a bad thing, even though you're saying I pulled a you.
I'm just pointing it out.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing,
Well,
Zach?
you were critical of me for doing it, but then you're doing it. So
No.
I'm just asking what's different. That's all.
Yeah. Well, what's different is that I actually get the predictions right. So
I see.
Speaking of that and segueing into our United States Women's Championship match, where I'd like to see the belt on Bayley. I think it'd be really good, some good technical wrestling. I think helping Bayley along. No. Chelsea Green, who I told you as a Canadian is good, that mid-carder that can pull an act, that can whine and cry and entertain. The belt like this should be on a Chelsea Green. But I told you that. You didn't listen. Nobody listened. But Chelsea Green is your new United States Women's Champion. Inaugural. She went to Disney World after, which I love. And I actually thought coming off the top rope right into her finisher was something that I hadn't seen before. As good as Mishin and Chelsea Green could be on Saturday night's main event, because if you told me that, I'd be like, what? This was as good as it possibly could have been after that, with the right person winning. No question about it. And I'm not one, Zach, to pat myself on the back for these things, but I will pat myself on the back for this.
I think you're being very nice on this match because your person won. I thought this was the worst match on the card. I didn't think these two really went out there and had the greatest match. Finish, I got it. I got to give credit where credit is due. The fans popped when Chelsea Green did her finish and was able to win the championship. I have to give credit where credit is due. But tell me what else happened in the match here, Lee.
I'll tell you that the crowd was excited about the winner.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that I saw her get into her finisher in a very new, creative way.
Yeah.
And the right person won.
Gotcha.
That's all. Listen, in a match like this, that is way above expectation for me in the WWE.
So you just
above.
repeated what I just said about the finish and not anything else about the match, which point proven.
Zach, I said that she was very creative in her finish before you said that.
Uh-huh. Fair enough, yeah. But I also broke down the match, and I was like, look.
Well, you broke it down. You said nothing good happened.
Yeah.
That's not breaking it down.
I thought that I broke it down to its simplest terms. That's what I did. It was not a good match. It's so as everybody already knows, not the biggest Chelsea Green.
I'm not as high on as Chelsea Green as other people.
No,
yeah, we know.
I know. I just you never know who's gonna tune in, Lee. You gotta keep everybody up to date on the takes. Not the biggest Chelsea Green fan.
But when you say I'm not as high as other people, I don't know who those other people are.
Versage.
Yes,
I'm not as high on her as Versage is.
Yeah. Well, then you're not into champions, I guess.
It's when's the next time we're gonna talk about the Women's United States Championship, Lee? I bet you it will be months before we talk about the next Women's United States Championship match on this show, on this podcast.
I'm as big a Chelsea Green fan as anybody, and weekly we are going to get updates because I know Chelsea will defend this title more than Liv Morgan ever would. So I know as a Canadian to Canadian, maybe it'll be every week we're talking about Chelsea Chelsea Green's new title defense.
Maybe. To me, you're kind of doing a victory lap of a title that I don't think we'll be talking about for at least 3 months. So at least 3 months. I would be shocked if we're talking about this title at the Royal Rumble. Especially considering the cards that Paul Levesque likes to put together, where 6 matches is a marathon apparently, but nonetheless, yeah. I mean, she won, she celebrated, good for her. I was thinking Bayley because not only because I was thinking, oh, you get like a name to establish the belt, but also how WWE loves their moments and they book for TikToks and Instagram reels, like I've said before. What's a better moment Instagram reel than promoting your first Grand Slam women's champion in Bayley? Someone who won the women's championship, the women's tag team championship, and now is the winner of the women's United States championship. You can put that all over social media, and you got that moment.
But then we'd have to care about Bayley.
Yes.
Which we don't.
Which has been tough. I mean, when you put her in the ring with Nia Jax, that's going to be tough either way. But it's again, TikToks, Instagram reels. That's how I'm thinking of this booking. But I forgot that Chelsea Green is also over on Instagram reels and TikToks.
Exactly.
So that's also a moment that's going to be shared and continues to be shared on Instagram. And I love reading the comments. So well deserved that she won the Women's United States Championship, a belt that I am sure people will remember in a year's time. So we'll see. Who knows? I could be wrong here. Maybe I'm coming off like a prick here, and and maybe Chelsea Green is going to be defending that title on Raw each and every week, and we'll be having these great matches. Maybe I'm the one in the wrong here, but I just I really don't think we're going to be talking about this championship for a couple months.
Doesn't feel like you think you're in the wrong.
I'm fairly confident on this one.
Okay, Zach. You say so. Chelsea Green. All right, let's get into because after Chelsea Green, we had Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. There's a lot to talk about here with the Winged Eagle Championship. What happened in the match, what happened after the match. But I want to start again with presentation. I thought presentation was 10 out of 10. I thought Kevin Owens was produced properly, made to look like he was a viable contender, came out with the gear, with the shirt. I thought he looked like it looked very Saturday night's main event from back in the day, with the contender coming out for the title, sitting on the ropes, looking at Cody. And then when Cody came out with the Winged Eagle Championship, look, he's pretty over in his entrances, but I thought they did a really good job. This is a 10 out of 10 in production for them getting to the ring, making it look important, way better than PLEs that they have done. I love the production of this.
Agreed. I love the pacing of the show too. The pacing, like, granted 2 hours, you're going to get better pacing than, these 3.5 hour, 4 hour, essentially, you're watching the TV, guide channel, watching all these ads going through. But in this case, like, I enjoyed the pace, the flow of everything. And like you said, presentation. What did you think of Jesse Ventura in terms of him on commentary for this main event?
I thought he was there for nostalgia, but behind on a lot of his comments.
Yes, I agree.
I thought it didn't feel like he was up to date. It felt like people were feeding him lines as to what to say or how to act. And it felt like he kind of watched a couple of months ago.
Yes. He kept calling Kevin Owens Kevin Owen a couple of times during the... And I think somebody filled him in during a commercial break, too. Because then all of a sudden he was saying Kevin Owens is out there and wrestling. And
I didn't... Look, I understand bringing him back. I just don't want... When you bring people back, don't put them in a position to fail.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of put into position to fail, of him really not knowing the people that he was talking about.
Yeah.
That's all.
There was a moment where Michael Cole is trying to throw it to the entrance, and Jesse Ventura is trying to get a joke off about how he's wearing Damien as his jacket, and McAfee's trying to play along. You could just tell Michael Cole is just sweating, like, we got to get to this next segment here, Jesse. We can't be talking about Damien being your coat at this point. I will say, though, I did enjoy Ventura's call in the main event of Cody using the chair to cheat. I was like, that was a little bit old school Ventura there. But otherwise it was pretty clear. And the comment he made is like, this is the first time I've been in the WWE in 40 years. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. 40 years? It's been 40 years since you were last in WWE. You were on Raw like 10 years ago with Vince McMahon. Like, for something similar like that. And you were in the main event with in that SummerSlam match as the special guest referee while you were the governor of Minnesota. So I thought that was weird. It's like, you haven't gone that long. It wasn't this great return like they were kind of making it out to be. He showed up on the programming a couple times. Yeah,
and they said 40 years when clearly he was there in the late 80s, and that's like 35 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they played with that a lot.
Yes. WWE playing with its history? That they would never do such a thing like that.
So, what'd you think of the match? Cody Rhodes does defeat Kevin Owens and uses the chair to do it when Kevin Owens did not.
Yes. I was a little underwhelmed. I was hoping for a little bit more. It wasn't a bad match, but I think they were kind of limited for time on what they wanted to do. This was one of those matches where, funny enough, if it was on a PLE, they'd probably be given more time, and they could probably have a better match. I didn't think this was a bad match. I was hoping for more, and obviously they used the chair in the as part of the angle, and this feud will continue, I imagine. But the match itself, I was a little underwhelmed. I was hoping for a little bit more, especially with the caliber of wrestlers both these guys are.
But what'd you think of the ending in particular of Cody cheating, but Kevin Owens not?
Thought that was intriguing. It kind of leans in a little bit more to maybe we see a heel Cody Rhodes in the future. And it adds some more justification for Kevin Owens, I could tell you that, despite him bringing in the chair. And if there's one thing that if you're going to lean into a heel Cody, that was one strength that Jesse Ventura put in, was kind of adding that heel element, even if he was, even though he's a heel, you kind of understand what he's saying. So I like that element of it, and maybe getting a heel Cody Rhodes at Mania. I wouldn't rule it out.
I wouldn't either. And they certainly leaned into it. Now, did you see afterwards the crowd and the chant of the crowd?
Are you talking about So
Kevin Owens obviously attacks Cody Rhodes after the show is gone and off the air, but we see it on the social media clips, and he gives them the package pile driver?
Yep.
What do you call it?
Yep.
Which is not supposed to happen in the WWE. And he gets carted off on a stretcher. And what are the fans chanting?
You deserve it.
Now, it's a Long Island crowd, which known to be a little notorious. New York crowds, Chicago crowds, Philly crowds, tougher than some others across the United States for sure. But I'm not sure that you can have a crowd at the end of Saturday night's main event chanting "You deserve it" when a guy's being carried off on a stretcher, and you not think about a heel turn. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
I don't see how they're going to get by here without turning him at some point. And it looks like they're on the path to do so.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping is I want to see, to me, how Kevin Owens is going to come out of this. They're going to continue on. They did the same strategy with like Triple H coming out and hoping that people caught it on video. I'm sure they had backups. for people catching it on video themselves, right? But
Yep.
what did you think of Kevin Owens and Triple H getting into it?
Oh, that poor Triple H, that camera shy Triple H, just having to go out there and take part in this angle. I'm sure he was reluctant to do so. It's like, no, guys, I'm back here. I'm trying to write stories back here. But all right, if you need me to do this for this angle, I will do it. But
you seem a little sarcastic there.
Just a little. Just a
bit.
little. I'm just, I just remember that comment of how, Paul Levesque is apparently notoriously shy behind the camera, and it's just, he gets put in these awkward situations for himself where he leads the crowd at the start of the show to try and get the applause, or takes part in angles, or says it's all about you in promos, but it's just so camera shy. He wants to be behind the back and just, put pen to paper and write his stories. But in terms of that, like what you mentioned, they were trying to go for the thing of, oh, Kevin Owens delivered the package pile driver after the show, and they're trying to, add a little bit of realism to it, and say, oh, this is not what he's supposed to do, and have you second guess it a little bit. I still think, though, that in terms of the Triple H element of the angle, it doesn't really make me, think that Triple H is going to get involved in the feud and wrestle. Like, I don't think he's going to wrestle anytime soon. I'm sure he's going to have, some sort of say. He'll probably cut some sort of promo, reluctantly, of course. But I don't see him getting in there and wrestling and being part of a program with Kevin Owens. In terms of the overall angle, I still think they should have done that on TV. I get what they're going for, but I think it would have a much bigger impact if they showed it on TV and you kind of go off air saying, oh my God, what is Kevin Owens doing? And you kind of leave with the chaos, and that way you can have viewers coming back. Otherwise, if you're somebody that's just watching on TV, you're not on social media, or you're not as, you're not on social media a lot, and you're just kind of catching up, oh, this is what happened. I think it would have more of an impact if it was on TV. And that's just consistent across the board with all the wrestling promotions. But I got what they're going for. I think the fans will get behind that, and we'll see where it goes.
So your final rating on Saturday night's main event, when it comes to, and I'm going to ask you first before whatever rating you give it, did this show do enough, from the matches to the storylines to the production to the presentation? Did it do enough for you to go, okay, I'm going to take these seriously, I'm going to watch again? You did make me think that this is a little bit different.
If they put the angle on the main show, I'd probably be more inclined to say, yeah, okay, this is an important show that's part of the canon that they want to do. There were still elements of this that I felt it was a little bit house showy at times, like a glorified house show. If we weren't doing this show and doing this podcast, and I was just kind of a fan that watches, I probably wouldn't be, going out of my way to catch the next Saturday night's main event. I enjoyed it enough for what it was. I'll tell you, great break from all the run-ins and angles that they did. Love me some clean finishes. They were in and out. That stuff appeals to me way more when it comes to pro wrestling. So I might be a little bit higher on it on that aspect than others might be, because I've seen some comments of it saying, oh, there wasn't this big angle other than the Kevin Owens stuff, after the show. There really wasn't that sort of big angle to kind of hook you in. Having said that, though, like, I probably wouldn't be, making sure I got my Saturday night's main event show DVR'd or anything like that. I thought it was a good show for what it was, an average to good show on a Saturday night. I enjoyed my time. I didn't feel like my time was wasted. And I am hovering around a 5.75 and a 6 as my final rating.
Okay. Before I give you mine, I'm just going to go over, and I'm just picking things out of the air here, okay?
Sure.
So I'm just gonna like pick a random Saturday night's main event, and I'm gonna go through some of the matches. And maybe just give me a year. Give me a year in the late 80s.
Let's go with 1987.
1987. Okay. So that's 86. The first one in 87 from the Joe. They did it 3 weeks beforehand. Randy Savage defeated George the Animal Steel by countout. Hercules won a battle royal, last eliminating Billy Jack Haynes. The Hart Foundation defeated Tito Santana and Danny Spivey.
Okay.
And Ricky Steamboat defeated the Iron Sheik. I'll pick another one just so we can. Kamala defeated Jake Roberts. The British Bulldogs defeated the Hart Foundation. Ricky Steamboat defeated Hercules. The Can-Am Connection defeated Volkov and Sheik. And Hogan and Patera defeated the Heenan family. My point is I can go through here a lot of the time and give you one or two matches that I thought were like Jake Roberts defeating Sika or Greg Valentine beating Coco Beware, all in 1987. Like, not every match on the Saturday night's main event was this crazy, like Rick Rude defeating Coco Beware. There are matches on here that not necessarily were the top. Like Big Boss Man beat Jim Powers in 1987. I guess my point I'm trying to make is that not every match is a top quality 5-star pay-per-view match. That's kind of what Saturday night's main event was.
Yep.
There was a lot I liked about this show. And a lot of it has to do with the production and the camera work and how they made it feel while you were watching it. The Liv Morgan graphic aside. I thought the matches were good. You talked about the pacing of the show. I thought it was excellent. I thought this is way better than a PLE. Way better.
I very much agreed.
And advanced storylines. Oh, yeah, you very much agree with your 5.75. Like, you're giving it a D, and you're saying it's better than the PLEs.
Well, think of the PLE ratings I've given out in the past. Like 3s, 4s, 5s.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
I'm going to give this a 7.25.
Wow, okay.
Okay? Because for the WWE, they did enough in this show for me to give them the benefit of the doubt for the next Saturday night's main event. And I was very skeptical I was going to feel that way after the show. In fact, if I had $10, and I don't because you stole it from me, I wish I had the $10 back, Zach. So can you give it back? But if I had it, I would have bet on the fact that you wouldn't have had me going into show number 2.
When did I lose $10 from you?
No, you stole it, Zach.
When did I steal it?
You steal money from me all the time.
What? That is a bold accusation, sir. Money,
time, effort. You steal all these things from me.
I certainly steal your time. That is true.
Yeah.
that I can't deny.
So while there were things I didn't love about the show, did I expect the WWE to give me a 10 out of 10? No. They made me want to watch their next Saturday night's main event. And I can't believe they did.
Yep.
So they deserve over a 7 for that. And what Saturday night's main event was really good at was kind of advancing storylines for the people who don't watch all the time. Feels like Cody Rhodes doing things like using the chair and turning into a heel is what we're going to see going forward to continue the storyline. There was a storyline that felt like it was going to be continued, even though you didn't see, and I actually very much wholeheartedly agree with you on showing the Kevin Owens stuff on TV. I think they should have. But I still felt as a viewer, like you just watched Cody Rhodes win a big match and you're not quite sure about him. Because why did he cheat if he's the hero? So sometimes simple is better. And I enjoyed it. Again, wishing things, and as you said, I'm going to even give them even more credit for the non-run-ins and every match is a freaking sideshow at the end of the match. None of that happened. And we were all better off for it.
Yeah. You know what?
Including AEW's last pay-per-view at the end.
That's true. You know what? I will adjust to go 6.25. And the reason why I'm kind of hovering around there, because I did like elements of the show, but I couldn't go any higher because I didn't think, while I agree with you on the matches of the past of Saturday night's main events, at that time it was still, the appeal was you're getting to see these big stars wrestling against each other in prime, well, not necessarily prime time, but like late evening, you know, on a Saturday night, or in that Saturday Night Live time slot. That was kind of the appeal of it in the past. I think obviously that's changed now with how much more accessible wrestling has become in 2024. If the matches were a little bit better, if we had a little bit of a higher end with a couple of these matches, and if we did have the Owens segment in the show, the Owens main event angle, I would probably be higher, and I'd probably be looking at that 7.725. But that's why I'm kind of keeping it at around a 6.25, because, you know, while I am thankful that there were no run-ins, because God forbid what happens if every match was a run-in on this show, and how my mood would be reviewing this show, I still have to kind of look at what I got here, and I'm not going to give them a pass at WWE because they didn't go with a sideshow thing that was actively bad. You know, I got to review it how I see it. And so for me, I'll give it a 6.25, but I can't go any higher than that.
Folks, we've made progress with Zach in the last couple of minutes.
That's right. Growth. It's all about growth here on the podcast.
Okay, so do you want to talk a little AEW here?
Sure.
As we get going, and we're kind of reviewing is it the Continental Classic here that you still want to?
We could talk about the Continental Classic. I do want to mention the return of Toni Storm as well, because that's got some people talking.
I thought she retired.
So did I thought for sure she was done. She was retiring, and I thought that was totally legitimate. That's what some of the wrestling sites made it, you know, seem like. I was stunned to see her out there. Yeah, I mean, the Toni Storm stuff, I'm glad to see she's back to her old gimmick. I was actively pumping my fist when I saw that. So that's good. As it kind of continues on, and I know there was some talk about her wrestling on Rampage, and, you know, having her first match back be on Rampage, a show that's not going to exist in January of 2025. I hear the arguments. I really don't think, Lee, that the first match back was going to be that significant of a ratings mover for AEW. Yeah. I really don't.
I would agree.
So I'm not as, you know, pulling my hair. I get it. I understand why. I wouldn't book her to return on Rampage either, but I also am not thinking this is a game-changing move that they just blew it on, because nothing has shown to me from looking at television ratings and what this story has done that makes me think, man, this should have been on one of their other shows. And you know how I've always felt, Lee, as we joke about repetition here on this show. I've always been somebody that's like, you can't say, if you're talking about Rampage or Collision, and I understand it a little bit more with Rampage now since it's not coming back, but especially with Collision, you can't say it's an insignificant show, and then when they try to do something to make it significant, then complain about it being on a significant part being on that show. To me, you want to try and make your shows as significant as possible and be that and have it be consistent. So I have no issues with having significant angles being on your other shows, because that at least means that you're trying to make an attempt to make the other shows, you're trying to get people to watch. So all that to say, I'm glad that Toni Storm is back in this gimmick. Is she going to return to the timeless gimmick in the future? Probably. I'm not naive to the fact that she's been doing a couple of the mannerisms since she's come back, and I've seen the theories of her having this like double personality that she's battling through. So that's going to be some fun TV when that happens. But it's not happening now, and I am enjoying it for what it is. And if it just kind of sticks with this Mariah May Toni Storm thing, and we have this blow-off match, I am kind of surprised it's happening now. I thought they would save this for their Grand Slam show in Australia. So I am a little surprised that they're doing this now, but I am happy that Toni Storm is in this current gimmick, Mariah May, and they're, going to have this match. And I hope very soon that we can eventually get this title out of the grasp of this all-consuming storyline that they put into this. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Toni Storm stuff.
And what about the fact that we got another return in the women's division? Julia Hart is finally back, and she comes back on Collision to take out Jamie Hayter.
Yep.
I like the fact that they put her in with Hayter right away. To me, that shows, okay, she's going to be in a significant position. But I didn't like the fact that they brought her back when her opponent got beat clean, and then she came back. Right?
Yep.
Didn't love that. But glad that she is back. So we get a couple of good returns in AEW in the women's division, Julia Hart and Toni Storm. Not a ton of Continental Classic news. I was a little bit surprised that Mark Briscoe beat Daniel Garcia. You?
Are you talking about him beating Daniel Garcia? He also beat Kyle Fletcher, didn't he?
What's that?
Didn't he also beat Kyle Fletcher recently? Or
yes,
do I have my matches mixed up?
Yeah, no, he just beat Kyle Fletcher.
That's right. Yeah, those
after
two.
Fletcher was on a big run.
Yeah, that was a really good match, by the way. Fletcher's been having a good tournament. I've been enjoying his matches a lot. And here's the thing with Mark Briscoe, and yes, he is not somebody that is going to be pushed as your main event guy, but he has always been solid. And he continues to show why they put him in this tournament, because he's somebody you could rely on to have good matches. But I agree with you. I was surprised that not only did he beat Kyle Fletcher, but he also beat Daniel Garcia over the last couple of collisions. It makes me wonder how they're trying to do this seeding thing as we kind of continue on. And we got a couple more weeks of Dynamites. We got the Holiday Bash coming up this Wednesday, and then the show is at Hammerstein, which should be interesting. But that's interesting choices. I'm not going to go full bore on it quite yet, because I still think this is something that's kind of being played out in the tournament as we kind of continue on with a few weeks left. But if it doesn't become clear, later on in the tournament, then I'm going to be in the same ballpark as you of I'm not sure why Mark Briscoe had to beat Daniel Garcia and Kyle Fletcher, other than he needed some points on the board and had to fill out some slots in his league, in the blue league. But I'm going to let it play out a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe they haven't earned that in terms of playing it out, but I feel like there is something that's happening there. So I will give them a pass. Who knows? I might have egg on my face, as evidenced by the Chelsea Green match at Saturday night's main event.
It's too bad Jack Perry wasn't around. We could make it a full circle.
Yeah.
John Moxley, Orange Cassidy, Hangman Page, and Jay White. 4-way match for the AEW World Championship at World's End. Do you like this as the main event? Do you think it'll be the main event?
To answer your first question, no, I don't love it. I'm not a big fan of the multi-man matches. I was disappointed in John Moxley calling it a fatal 4-way. I know it seems like a small thing, but you got to be different from the other companies. Don't be using their terminology. So when he called it Fatal 4-Way, I was disappointed. I don't see this being the main event. I feel like the Continental Classic's going to be the main event of World's End, especially if it's something like Osprey Okada, right? Or even Osprey Fletcher. I could see that main eventing because they are putting the. I know he just lost to Mark Briscoe, but they are putting the rocket booster onto Kyle Fletcher here and trying to have him ascend up the card. So I don't see it main eventing. I don't really love this 4-way as the matchup here. I'd much rather have it be Jay White and John Moxley or any other sort of singles match. Like, don't even do a 3-way, just have it be some sort of singles match. But nonetheless, I don't think it's going to be the main event. I think they are going to have that Continental Classic be the main event final.
I don't know how I feel about that. You know how I feel about the AEW World Championship being the last thing.
Yep.
But I do get the importance of wanting to make the Continental Classic a big thing. I'm just not going to put it over your world title. That's all. Now, the problem that they booked themselves into is we're probably looking at Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, right?
Seems more and more likely as this tournament goes on.
Well, okay, let's just look at it from the other way, which we can dissect. If you think the Continental Classic is going to be the main event, does Will Ospreay have to be in the main event?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, then who is Will Ospreay facing?
Right.
To me, it's okay.
I was going to say it's between Fletcher and Okada. I see your Fletcher argument, but I think Okada Ospreay would also be a more than serviceable main event, especially considering the history those two have.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if Okada and Ospreay are your two guys, I could see it being, for me, it's the main event, but I never want to put it above my title. That's all.
Yep. I'm
not a big fan of putting it over my world title, no matter who's in it. It just, to me, it's just not the same. And so, I mean, I think the Diamond Ring match is going to main event. So I don't know what you're talking about. But
of course. I mean, that's a main event in any building, really. So
yeah.
How can we forget about that one?
I'm really torn on this because I don't like, if you gave me Okada Ospreay, I do feel like that is a main event at a pay-per-view and not a 4-way with Moxley and Hangman and Jay White. It feels a bit rinky-dink. But I also don't want my world title to feel rinky-dink, so why book myself into that corner in the first place? I would put it as the main event, especially if, again, is it possible that somebody else like Christian gets involved? I'll know right away if Moxley's going over clean, if it's the main event or not. If it's not the main event, John Moxley's going over. To me. And it's not close. If it's the main event, I'm not so sure. I could work some, so like if you're going to give me Ospreay and Okada and then follow it up with a 4-way, you better give me something good. So I'm a little torn on where they're going right now.
I think if it was the case where the title had been defended so many times in the main event and a lot of these pay-per-views, and you do the one-off where you have the tournament final be, your main event, I wouldn't have much of an issue with it, especially when you're trying to establish this Continental Classic tournament as, the tournament in pro wrestling, and all the best wrestlers come in and have these great matches, and, you have this big winning moment, right? Like in the G1, whoever wins the G1 goes to main event the Tokyo Dome. It changed this year with Zack Sabre Jr., but historically, the winner of the G1 goes to main event the Tokyo Dome and challenges the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in the Dome, right? Yeah. And they don't have the champion defend on that show either. They have it strictly focused on the G1 climax. That's what it's all about. And so if it was something like that, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But the fact that AEW has had that title not be the main event multiple times beforehand. Like it's been on and off recently in terms of that title being in the main event. I could see where you're coming from, where it's like, I'd be a little iffy on it.
I also question a little bit, like, I don't mind the winner of the Continental Classic getting a world title shot at a big show. I like that idea because I think it works. I mean, the Royal Rumble does it.
Yep.
The G1 does it. So why not do it? I just might move where the Continental Classic is, as opposed to like, what do I want that shot to be at All In? And if I do, would I think about moving the tournament?
That would be something I would consider.
You'd probably want to put that title match at All In, wouldn't you?
I would. You could still have your Continental Championship and have that be because, you know, in New Japan, you could still defend your world title shot over the next couple of months after the G1. What they usually do is you win the G1 and then you have to wait a couple of months before the January show because usually the main event of the G1 show is in July or August. So during that time in those months, what they usually do is the people that maybe that person that won the G1 they might have lost to in the tournament, they would have a match for that title shot to kind of fill in those gaps. And that way they could say, oh, I've beaten everybody that you've needed to beat before heading into, you know, the Tokyo Dome show, Wrestle Kingdom. So they could do something similar with that Continental Championship belt and just say, hey, like, they won the championship belt, but they lost to this person in the tournaments. And so we're going to, you know, have this title shot be on the line. That way we can ensure that they have been everybody that he's needed to beat to get to the point in the main event. And they would, you know, promote it, all that stuff, and have these big matches be promoted so you could try and draw some attendance as well. So I think there's something there that they could work with when it comes to the Continental Classic. I don't mind them just being a straight up G1. I don't think the fans would be opposed to that, considering the legacy of the G1 over the last couple of years. So that'd be something I'd be interested in for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. Because I just don't know where the winner of the Continental Classic goes. Is it just to hold a secondary title? I mean, heaven forbid we compare it to Chelsea Green, but
of course,
you know, who won a big tournament on her own.
That's right. It wasn't a round robin tournament, but it certainly was a tournament.
It was a tournament.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to just be for a mid-card title. And are you putting it as the main event only because Ospreay and Okada are in it? Right? Like, if Mark Briscoe and Darby Allin were in it, would you put it in the main event over Jon Moxley?
Oh, God, no.
Right. So I like it when it's the main event, as you said, of a show. And that's what people are coming to see. So you know about the importance. I don't think they've quite honed in on the importance yet of the Continental Classic, but there's still time to see what they do with it in only its second year. But I'm like you. I think I would like to see them do a little bit more New Japan. Or just put, you don't have to do it exactly like New Japan. Just put a little bit more importance on it.
Yep.
I think that this is a good place. You and I agreeing on Liv Morgan's title reign being superior to the third longest.
Yes, of course. One of the greatest women's champions of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time. Could be the wrestler of the year by the end of the year.
Yeah. Not female wrestler of the year.
The wrestler of the year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. Trotted out her 1-3 record over the course of the year. And
yeah. What are you going to try? How to answer that, Will Ospreay?
Yeah. I beat Zelina Vega. Oh. And now Io Sky before the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. She beat Rhea Ripley by DQ. But that's okay. That's fine. Yeah. A win's a win. You know, a win's a win.
In the when they don't ask how part, actually sometimes they do. They totally do, Zach. They ask how. But this has been a nice Look, I gave a WWE show a 7.25. I feel like this is the height of my year in 2024.
Yeah. This is that growth we've been talking about.
Yeah, you have to grow.
That's right. We are all about growth here on the show. And look, I was higher on the WWE show too. I know
Yes,
I know a
You're
625 is not
you're
exactly
625. No, your 625 is like a 9 in other people's books.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
So we got it.
You know, when you had that teacher you always hear about, it's like, oh man, like I got a 65 in that class, but boy, everybody else got like a 62. Like you feel like that's like a 90 in other people's with other teachers, right?
That's what you try and tell your parents, and your parents are like, dude, you got a 65.
That is also true. But you try to convince them. You try to say, look, you know, the class average was 64. And I got a 66. No. I was above the average. The highest mark was a 76.
Zach McGibbon setting the bar ever lower, always here on This Is Wrestling. That's what he's good at. For Zach McGibbon, I'm Lee Versage. Thanks again for listening to another edition of This Is Wrestling.